Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
Today, we're here to talk about the recently announced Year of St. Joseph.
Now, this one was sprung on us on the Solemnity of the Immaculate Conception.
It started that day.
Started on the Solemnity of the Immaculate Conception. So, from December 8th, 2020 until December 8th, 2021, welcome to the Year of St. Joseph. What else do we have to say about that?
Oh, I thought you were saying your favorite quote from St. Joseph there. You know, I was just going to let the silence go.
Well, that is... All right, so let's do that. Each of us will now share with you our favorite, directly from the sacred scriptures themselves, our favorite words of St. Joseph.
Can I go first?
Please.
All right. Here's my favorite. It's taken from... we'll say from the book of Matthew.
Wow, that was going to be mine too. Only, of course, I was going to do when
The one from St. Mark?
Yes, when Mark...
No.
No. Again, Mark is all about rush, rush, rush. So Jesus is already beginning his earthly ministry. Most likely St. Joseph's already dead by that point.
That's fair. So
he wrote just as much about the quote.
So let me guess. Your one, your preferred one is from Luke.
Obviously.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and share it with the audience?
You know, Luke might have heard it directly from Mary's mouth.
Precisely. So the words of St. Joseph.
No, all kidding aside, the reason we're doing this is because there aren't actually any words in Scripture that are directly attributed to St. Joseph.
We have actions. Mm-hmm. We know that he received at least 2 messages from angels in dreams. Mm-hmm. But he has not a single line of dialogue.
Yeah, we know a lot about his experiences immediately prior to Jesus' birth.
I mean, I think the shepherds have, lines.
Yeah.
We know a little
Random
bit.
guys have more lines.
Mm-hmm. We know a little bit about his experiences in the time following Jesus' birth.
Mm-hmm. We have the one instance of the Lord's childhood where, again, all the dialogue is Mary's, and she says, "How could you do this to us? Your father and I have been worried about you." But again, St. Joseph, he's a man of few words.
So what we can do, we could always, of course, go and theoretically attribute words to him that it would have been likely to have been said. Like when he's looking around Jerusalem, where is that kid?
Listen, I'm not mad at you. I just that I thought that you had him. I'm mad at me because I should have checked before we left.
Yes, which is another thing.
This isn't your fault.
This is my fault. I should have checked.
Which is another thing I love about St. Joseph, because he is the one member of the Holy Family that I can relate to. Because although technically, just because you're not sinful doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. I mean, Mary could have burnt dinner. Jesus could have, tried tossing something to him and it went way past. But he's the only one who actually did anything sinful. No matter what the problem is, he's at fault in that.
Because when your kid is the son of God and your wife is immaculate, if anyone's doing anything wrong or sinning, it's clearly you. Although, great for the humility. Mm-hmm. One of many virtues that St. Joseph models for us.
Yes.
Plus, I will say, in a world where many people like to speak and have much less of a willingness to listen, the silent strength of St. Joseph does really have something to teach us. Despite the fun we're poking at it here.
Oh, and there's something to be said for his faith.
Absolutely.
Because in Mary's case, there's an element of faith in her fiat. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the things that were going to be happening to her, she had every reason to know for a fact that they could not have happened any other way. Mm-hmm. But from the word go, all Joe's had is his faith that this was as God has ordained it.
Mm-hmm. And one dream after he was going to do the essentially most honorable thing that a righteous Jew could do in that situation. Well, I'm not saying the kid's not mine. Things happened.
But he was going to divorce her quietly. He wanted to avoid scandal. He wanted to avoid any potential violence against Mary. Mm-hmm. But then the angel says jump, and he says how high.
Yeah, but for the whole of it, he's a faithful man. Mm-hmm. God said, I'm going to do a magnificent thing, and you're going to be a part of it. And he said, all right.
You're the boss. Also, we live in a world that is suffering from a crisis of fatherhood. Especially here in the West, for many years, there's been just the plague of divorce. There's been a moral license that's been given to men not to take on the responsibility of being a father. So you have, especially, very famous cases of athletes fathering many children and then not taking care of any of them. And in this kind of a world,
or even non-athletes for that matter,
Sure.
everybody wants to be a superstar.
oh sure, but just those are the public examples.
Oh yeah,
Whereas Saint Joseph, with again his silent strength, this is of all the men who ever lived, this is the one that God chose to take care of, one, himself, and two, the greatest of all his creatures. So the most precious things that ever existed, Our Lady and our Blessed Savior, were entrusted to the protection of Saint Joseph. So clearly, a stand-up guy.
Yes. I've heard many, things about how, if you could pick your own mother for Mary and stuff. Mm-hmm. However, I've also very rarely heard the fact that, essentially for Jesus in his humanity who had to learn and grow, this is who he picked to explain to him what a father is.
Yeah, this is
how a man behaves.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, Joseph was every bit a father to Jesus. Yeah, that's where he learned how to be a man, how to care for others, how to put the needs of others ahead of his own.
And possibly wood or stoneworking.
Yeah, indeed. I bet he was a jack of all trades.
Well, yeah, that does translate better, but
Yeah. Tecton, day laborer, not strictly a carpenter, but I bet he knew how to work his way around a saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, this year, we're having an entire year about St. Joseph.
For which we all had so much time to prepare.
Yeah. And it had already been going for hours by the time I heard about it.
And we're probably going to forget about this in 3 weeks, but I say that we should go and every so often throughout the year come back with more St. Joseph stuff.
Especially on the big feast of St. Joseph.
Yes.
Yes. As a few hours, into the year, I learned that apparently every Wednesday is in fact devoted to him. Unlike Mary, that, on any church calendar you get, it's like, if there's no feast day, optional Mary. This is the first time I've ever heard of this.
You're not wrong. This is also the first time I've ever heard of this.
And also the Pope has made various indulgences that are designed for the fact that we currently have a pandemic. We don't know when it's going to end. We have a lot of people who, for, health and safety reasons, shouldn't be going out and pilgrimaging and traveling. So, ones you can do at home, in reminding you that as far as all the, criteria for doing it, in this case, if you simply firmly intend to go to confession when you reasonably can, that can count.
Mm-hmm. And once again, as I suggested in the Advent episode that we did last week, while I know that most churches aren't doing their usual confession cycles and things, if you are an individual who firmly feels that you need confession, call your parish. Talk with your priest. I'm fairly certain that as long as they're physically capable of doing so, they will be willing to try and make some arrangement so that you can receive that sacrament if you are in need.
I've heard a number of priests on internet who greatly like the fact that for drive-through confession, they hang out in a deer blind for their half, and then the car pulls up. They're like, this is so fun.
Yeah, we haven't been able to convince Father Steve that the deer blind idea is something he wants to do. But I have, on occasion, simply caught Father Steve at a moment prior to Mass and said, "Do you have 2 minutes?"
Well,
Which only works because we know he's cool with that. Because some priests are like, I'm really busy right then.
Although, I mean, in my experience, if you say to a priest, "Father, can you hear my confession?" they will always say yes.
Rarely. I mean, he does tell the story of the woman where he's like, I'm really busy, so you're going to have to call the office. So she called the office, and she was his next appointment that day. He walks over to the rectory. She's there. Hi, I'm your 1 o'clock.
Well, clearly God wanted that to happen. And of course, I mean, I didn't look it up in advance, but there's a great story of one of the popes. He's celebrating Mass, and some guy comes in demanding confession. So he just stops mass, hears the guy's confession, and then goes back to it. Yeah.
I mean, he's the Pope. I suppose he can do that.
He's the Pope. He can do that.
Who's gonna tell him? Who's gonna tell him that was inappropriate? I mean,
He'll reply, "I'm the Pope." So, there is coming up very soon. Is it a solemnity?
I don't know.
There's Holy Family.
Yes.
The first Sunday after Christmas. And after that, then it'll be March 19th is the Solemnity of St. Joseph. And then May 1st is St. Joseph the Worker.
And every Wednesday is apparently his day.
Every Wednesday.
We all learned something this year that started on the 8th. So, comment below with your favorite quote from St. Joseph, or better yet, your favorite tradition to celebrate someday related to St. Joseph. I know there's various baked goods and little kid activities where they make their carpenter stuff and other fun things.
Note, your favorite activity involving St. Joseph should not involve superstitious practices such as burying statues of him upside down.
yeah, if you're gonna bury a statue of him, at least do it the right side up.
I totally get there's the novena
All the blood will rush to his head.
But the statue part just seems like that. If I was St. Joseph, I'd be angry that you're constantly giving me a head rush in my statues.
At least a little irked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be righteous anger.
I would be
He's in
less
heaven.
than pleased.
And until then, thank you for all those St. Joseph quotes.
And remember to live your faith.
Love your faith.
And share that love.
Also, like, subscribe, and all the whatnot.
Yeah.